Let's begin square 3. We need our trusty 3.5 DPNs, double pointed needles. We got some yarn here. I think it's 12 wraps per inch, I'm quite certain. So we're going to cast on 24 stitches. So we're going to just pull out a nice long tail, and we're going to use the long tail cast on method. So we can start off by making our slip knot. But I'm not going to really cover how this cast on goes. Instead, just watch this video if you're not familiar with it already. So we just place our slip knot onto our needle, get into the position, and we cast on 24 stitches. And just spread them out here and count them just to make sure. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay, so we're good. And I've prepared a chart as well. If you're into that sort of thing, you can find the link down in the description. So let's begin. The first stitch will be a slip stitch purlwise. You see the symbol in the top left? You just click that if you're not familiar, but it goes like that. The next stitch will be a purl. Again, symbol top left if you're not familiar. And then a knit stitch top right if you're not familiar. And you're just going to alternate between those. So you go purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, all the way across, ending on a purl stitch. So instead of watching me just do every stitch, we're just going to skip ahead to the last 4 here. So purl, and then knit, and then we're going to end on a purl stitch. So you're going to find that we always slip the first stitch purlwise and end with a purl stitch. That gives us a nice neat edge. So we'll start round 2 now, and it's very similar, except kind of opposite, I suppose. The way I want you to think about this is, well, first let's get this slip stitch out of the way. But if you look at the previous stitches, anywhere you see something that looks like a purl, you knit it. Like, see this? Looks like a purl, right? You can see because the thread comes out in front, like on the last round. So we're going to knit the first stitch and purl the second one, and then just continue doing that. Alternate between a knit and a purl all the way to the end. So this may be referred to as a seed stitch by some, but it's just an alternate knit purl sequence, and always end on a purl, no matter what. So that's round 2 completed. So we'll just turn this around again and do round 3. So we're going to do 4 rounds of this knit purl sequence. So we'll slip the first one purlwise once again, and have a look here. So you see that looks like a knit right there, and that looks like a purl. So we're going to purl the first one and then knit the second one, and then just continue doing that all the way across. So it's exactly the same as the first round. So 1 and 3 are the same, and 2 and 4 are the same. Rounds, I mean. So knit, and then purl the last one, and then turn her around. Make sure everything's in order here. And once again, slip the first stitch. And then have a look, you know. We know it's going to be a knit, but always check, you know, if it looks like a purl, knit it. If it looks like a knit, then you purl it. That's the fundamentals of so-called seed stitch. So we're pretty close to the end here. Knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, and purl. And you'll see here, we have the last stitch here, you're going to want to purl that as well. So that's 2 purls in a row, kind of. And that's fine, that's what we want. So let's turn it around here and start row 5. This is where it gets interesting. So you see this tail thread is coming out on the right side. That means we're on an odd numbered row. Row 5 in this case. That's just a little trick to keep track of which side you're on. So we're going to make a border now, a 4 stitch border. So slip the first one, purl 1, knit one, and purl one. So that's your edge, the tapered edge that's going to keep it from curling like it did in square 2 if you did that tutorial, I don't know. Regardless, we're going to now knit 16 stitches in a row. That will leave 4 stitches on the other end. So we're getting close here. That should be 16. So they're just 16 regular knit stitches. Now we got our edge here as well, and we're going to do the same thing except in reverse. So knit, purl, knit, and purl the last one. And now we're going to turn it around. And now we're on the wrong side, so to speak, the private side, the back side of the work. So we're going to slip the first one purlwise and have a look, see what that stitch looks like. I suppose it's a purl, so we knit it, we purl one, and then we knit one. And now we can have our 16 sort of center stitches of the square. But since we're on the wrong side, instead of knitting 16, we're going to purl 16. That'll make the center square, so to speak. All purls on one side, on the back side, and all knits on the other side. So here we are, got our 4 stitches. We're going to purl one, knit, and then purl one more, and then of course purl the last one as well. Turn it around. Now we're on round 7. So it's the same as round 5. Slip the first one. Get my thread here. And then always verify and look. See, that's a knit stitch. That means we're going to purl it. And that's the purl, obviously. So we knit it, and then we purl one. And that's our border completed. Those 4 stitches. And now you're going to knit 16. And here we are at the end. Once again, we've got our 16 stitches, got our 4 border stitches there. So knit the first, purl the second, knit the third, and purl the last. So that row was exactly the same as row 5. And then row 8 will be exactly the same as row 6. So you see here, we're sort of getting this flat area in the middle. That's what we're looking for. So see here, that's purl. So slip the first one. And then knit the second. Purl the third, and knit the fourth. And then just purl the 16 stitches in the center. All the way till you have 4 left for the border on the other end. So that's the 4. So we knit the first, purl the second, knit the third, purl the fourth. And we're just going to keep doing that until we have 9 centimeters, which is about 3.5 inches. Pretty sure, a little over maybe. But now we have 5, so we're about halfway. Like I skipped ahead, obviously. But let's just count the rows within the center to see how far we are. So pretty much what's happening is we're repeating row 5 and 6 until we have 9 centimeters. That's 18. So it's looking decent. That's pretty much what we're going for here. So again, just slip the first stitch. This is the same as row 5. Purl, knit, and purl. And then you just knit 16. And I hope I've done an adequate job of explaining the procedure here. Pretty much it. I don't know how I can explain it better, and that's sort of like why I made the chart, so you can look at it and verify it for yourself. But pretty much what's happening is we made this 4-row border at the bottom, and then we did 2 rounds, 5 and 6, and then we just keep repeating those for about 27 rounds or so. to get 9 centimeters in height. So we'll just turn it around. This is the same as row number 6. Slip the first, knit the second, purl, and then knit. And then we're going to purl the 16 center stitches, just like we did in round 6. So it's just a repetition of rounds 5 and 6 for about 27 stitches. So here we are at the last 4. Have a look. So on the last round, you see the first one's a knit and the second one's a purl. So we'll do the opposite. We purl the first, knit the second, purl the third, and then end on a purl to give us that nice edge. Always end on the purl. So we're just going to keep doing that until the work in its entirety measures 9 centimeters. And then we're going to start with our border again. Just like the bottom border, we're going to put one at the top as well to keep it from curling like square 2 did. It's going to alleviate that issue with the crimping kind of. You can see it's kind of trying to do it here still, but it's certainly more manageable now. So we're going to start this by slipping one and then purling the second, knitting the third, and purling the fourth. And that's what was our border right there. But instead of knitting the next 16, we're just going to alternate between a knit and a purl, like this, all the way to the end, ending on a purl. So this is exactly the same as the first row that we did. And there's a lot of repetition in knitting, as I'm sure you've gathered by now. But I really want to stress the importance of this stitch, that we're doing. The knit and the purl, which seem like two different ones, but it's actually just the same stitch reversed, right? And I've mentioned this before in previous tutorials, but this is something I really want to get into your brain, understand that this is the same thing repeated. So here we're going to slip the first, knit the second, purl the third, knit, purl, all the way to the end, ending on a purl. Once again, just like row 2. So you might be feeling like at this point, why you got me doing the same stitch over and over again? It's been 3 squares already, and what are we learning? Like, I want to get to the good stuff. Where's the lace at? Where's the cables? I want to make hats. I want to make gloves. And I can appreciate that. Remember, we always end on a purl, but the reason we're staying here is we need to establish a fundamental understanding of the basic concepts of knitting. Because what happens when people get interested in a craft is they will sometimes just jump in the deep end and try to go right for the goal. And what happens then is they will get overwhelmed because things are difficult in the deep end. And what happens is they quit, they give up. And I don't want that for you. I want you to succeed. So we're going to stay here for a while. And we're going to explore the infinite possibilities that this one stitch provides for a while. And then we will get to making gloves, hats, scarves, shawls, lace knitting, and cabling, so on. But first, let's take care of the fundamentals. And always end on a purl. So that's the knitting part done. We have binding off left, but let's just have a look at what we got here. So we have this border, right, that runs around all 4 sides, 4 edges of our work. And the idea behind it is that it's going to taper the flat knit bit in the middle and keep it from curling in so much. So let's compare it to square number 2, like this square we did here. And I haven't bound off the edges or anything because, it was just an experiment. But you see it just rolls up. Whereas this one kind of is trying to roll up a little bit, but it's able to lay flat more so than square 2 was. And that is why we put this edge around it. And let's just bind off. We're going to use the same method again as we did in square 2. So first just slip 1 stitch purlwise, knit the next one, and then pick that slip stitch up and drop it over the knit stitch like that. We'll bring it back here and show you again. So you just drop it down like that, and then give yourself plenty of slack on that knit. and then drop it over. Give yourself more slack than you think you should. That's the rule of thumb. And just repeat that all the way across the top. Knitting one, dropping a loose slip stitch over, knitting the next, and dropping the last stitch over again. There we go. So we have 3 left here. Pick it up, drop it over. Careful not to lose any stitches unintentionally. So we have this last one here. We're just gonna, don't split the thread either. Drop that over. And then there's only one remaining, right? So what do we do with that? You don't drop it off like that. No. What you want to do is you want to break your thread. You can use scissors here, but I just like to brute force it. And then what you want to do is just pull that string straight through the loop, just like that, all the way through, and tighten it off. And that's it. So you can see it's laying relatively flat. Flip it over, it's kind of curling a little on the purl side. Yeah, that's not so good, but on this side anyway, it's laying pretty flat. So that's more or less the idea. Obviously we gotta bind off these edges and, but gloss over that. I'll do a video eventually, describing the binding off. I really don't like that part of knitting, but regardless, it's a mandatory. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And, as always, if you have any questions or requests, just hit me up.